When do you think Victoria's Secret started losing its power? 22% said that around 2015 when an iconic model left. Her exit was symbolic because we were seeing firsthand how the world was changing, but Victoria's Secret refused to change with it. Then 20% said after the 2018 scandal. It was the reputation-damaging interview done by their former chief marketing officer, Ed Razak. The interview was so detrimental that Ed had to step down from his role, and it honestly exposed what a lot of people have been thinking about Victoria's Secret for a long time. That it was not built on empowerment, it was built on exclusion, and that something very sinister was going on behind the scenes. Then a small 10% of you said that when Rihanna entered the chat. Rihanna's fashion show, Savage x Fenty, didn't just compete, it defined what sexy was supposed to look like in 2023. Rihanna's show made inclusivity feel cool, not corporate. She gave the world something that Victoria's Secret up until this point had never did. Women who looked like us. Then most of you chose this answer. 47% said once social media changed beauty standards. And this one feels like the real turning point. Because once social media gave the mic to real people who would have never had the opportunity to speak up before, we stopped needing the validation that we craved from Victoria's Secret. We had YouTube tutorials, Instagram Reels, Instagram photos, TikTok videos. All of this redefined what beautiful and sexy meant to millions of women out there. And suddenly, Victoria's Secret's version of sexy felt outdated and not in a nostalgic way. So today, we're taking a walk down memory lane to explore how one of the world's biggest lingerie brands fell from grace. And not because the world changed, but because it refused to. And now they are trying to make a comeback, but will it work? By the end of today's video, we are going to answer one question. When a company only embraces diversity after being called out for rejecting it, can that ever feel authentic? Let's get into it. Yeah. I am giving away $1,000 worth of goodies to one lucky person, and I couldn't be more excited. But more on that in a second. Now, I know everyone's battling for the best butt title these days, but I prefer battles that I can actually win, like in Match Masters. Match Masters is one of my favorite puzzle games where the goal is so simple. All you have to do is line up 3 or more of the same shape or color and outscore your opponent to take the win. What I love about this game in particular is that A, it's easy to learn and easy to play, and B, you can play this game live with other people from around the world or even play it by yourself. But anyways, back to this giveaway. I am giving away the Soft Glam palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills, one of my favorite makeup brands. The next item is the K. Ali perfume, and this is the Vanilla Candy Rock Sugar. Then last but not least is the Dyson Airwrap. To win all of my favorite beauty items is quite simple. All you have to do is download Match Masters using my link. By using my link, you unlock access to join the Star Race giveaway. So here's how it works. All you have to do is play one game to unlock the race, and once you're in, you have 7 days to earn as many stars as possible. The top players from that round move on to the finals, and during the 3-day final, the player who gets the most stars takes home the entire giveaway bundle. I am so grateful to Match Masters for sponsoring today's video and for providing the opportunity for me to host this giveaway to make y'all feel pretty. So make sure you download Match Masters using my link to unlock the giveaway and share it with everyone you know. The game is free to download on iOS and Android. Now let's continue with the evolution of the bundas. Part 1. The rise of Victoria's Secret. The first ever Victoria's Secret fashion show premiered in 1995, so a long time ago, and this was at New York City's Plaza Hotel. What started as just another runway show evolved into a cultural phenomenon, transforming lingerie from something hidden and private into a fashion statement, a fantasy, and for many women, a form of empowerment. The first show did not by any means embody what we think of when we think of Victoria's Secret now. There were no crystals, no performances from major celebrities, and literally the most shocking thing is that there were no wings. And wings have become synonymous with Victoria's Secret. The angels, as the media calls it, is considered one of the most iconic elements of the brand. But I am getting ahead of myself. We're gonna get to that later in this video. But first, I want to talk about the origins of the brand that revolutionized how the fashion industry viewed fashion shows. And most importantly, how they viewed lingerie. Back in 19 1977, and yes, we are taking it way back, a man named Roy Raymond walked into a department store to buy lingerie for his wife. Instantly, he felt awkward and uncomfortable. He felt like he didn't belong there, which, I mean, fair enough, the store is meant for women, so I get that. But all he could find was hideous floral print nightgowns, literally nothing elegant, nothing sexy, it was giving grandma vibes. No offense to the grandmas out there though. And to make it even worse, the saleswoman who was working that shift that day, she made him feel like a creep for being in the store. He just had a very uncomfortable experience trying to buy lingerie for his wife. In my opinion, I don't know why the saleswoman was treating him like that, because I mean, it's normal for men, boyfriends, husbands, or whatever to buy lingerie for their wives or girlfriends. And on top of that, maybe they're buying it for themselves, you know? If that's what they do, that's their business, none of my business. But this was like the 70s, so it was a different time period. But after that awkward trip to the department store, Roy had a light bulb idea. He talked to his friends about it, and apparently he wasn't the only one who felt that way. There was this massive gap in the market. There was no place for men to shop for lingerie without looking like creeps. So he decided to fix that. His vision was simple: a lingerie store that felt elegant, elevated, and simple, not seedy or shameful. And honestly, the timing couldn't have been better. Back in the 50s and 60s and even 70s, women's underwear wasn't designed to be sexy. It was all about function, what was affordable, practical, and sturdy. Lingerie was something you wore under your clothes, not something you wore to feel confident or sensual. Fashion writers have even described department store lingerie as plain and matronly, the kind of thing that's labeled foundation garments. The fancier pieces were tucked away for honeymoons or special occasions. And if you did find a daring outfit, it was usually next to the, what do I call it? The costumes that were, I guess, meant for the freaky people, I don't know what to call it, but you know what I mean. Yes. The popular stores that sold lingerie in the 70s were Sears and JCPenney. And if you know, Sears filed for bankruptcy in Canada and now operates primarily in the United States, while JCPenney filed for bankruptcy in 2020, but still kept its stores open in all 50 states and in Puerto Rico. So these brands have managed to evolve, but they have also faced their struggles. And as a brand, you must continually develop. And that's a lesson that Victoria's Secret learned a little too late. As we go throughout this video, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So when Raymond opened Victoria's Secret in 1977, he completely flipped the script when it came to lingerie. Even the name had meaning. The name Victoria was a nod to the elegance and primness of the Victorian era, while the word secret hinted at the sensuality hidden underneath. It was refined on the surface, but playful underneath. This is precisely what the lingerie industry needed. We just wanted a variety and options, and Roy at that time provided it. And people loved it. The business pulled in $500,000 the first year. So he was raking in that dough and having a good time, and it was just a great time to be Roy Raymond in 1977. But before we get too far in this discussion, it's important to talk about the why of this company, why it was created. I understand that Roy felt uncomfortable when shopping for lingerie for his wife, and that the salesperson made him feel like a creep just for being there. However, we just can't gloss over the fact that a women's lingerie brand was created with men's comfort at the forefront. I mean, Roy did say that it was also meant for women to feel more confident and sexy in lingerie. However, some may argue, and some do argue, that nah, it was for the male gaze. So that is something to also keep in mind. However, the why of this company is not that surprising to me because A, it was 1977, but also throughout the decades, I should say, many men have been the founders of these major fashion and beauty brands. Like, don't get me wrong though, we still have women-led brands, and that's on period. Like, a lot of them are dominating the space, which we love. But I mean, we have to be honest too. Even in 2025, we have a lot of men who are the executives or they're the board members for these major brands that are targeting women. To me, it's just kind of crazy because your target audience does not look like your boardroom at all. So it's like, how can you understand us if you're not really us. In 2020, among Fortune 500 and S&P 500 companies, only 37 were led by women. And of those 37, only one was a beauty brand, Mary Dillon at Ulta Beauty. Women make up about 34% of board seats and 24% of executive roles in personal care companies. Translation, most high-level decisions are made by men, not women. But my question is, like, do y'all even wear makeup? I swear y'all don't. Obviously, I know that men wear makeup in 2025, like, cool, but I'm talking about the board members, the executives. Like, do y'all wear makeup? Because y'all are making all of these decisions, but if you don't even use the products that you're selling, can we trust you? Like, you get what I'm saying? Women bring perspectives and creativity that matter, especially in an industry that's designed for them. Products, marketing campaigns, and company messaging are all stronger when women have a say. So it's a bit crazy that the beauty industry has been run this way for such a long time. It's good that it's changing, but it's definitely still important to bring up. But back to Roy Raymond. So by 1982, the brand seemed to still be doing well. Victoria's Secret was pulling in $4 million a year. So it sounds good, right? But no, the company was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. Something was missing in the business, but Roy, he could just not put his finger on it. And it wasn't until Roy met Leslie Wexner, a savvy retail businessman and a billionaire. Leslie quickly pointed out the reason why Victoria's Secret was just not working out. And it was simple. The business was built for men. Yeah, the catalogs, the stores, even the vibe was not curated with women at the forefront. Because remember, the reason why Roy started this business in the first place is because he felt uncomfortable when he was shopping at a lingerie store. So that was the forefront of his vision for creating Victoria's Secret in the first place. But how can you make a lingerie brand and not keep women at the forefront? That was really the missing piece, and that was why Victoria's Secret was on the edge of bankruptcy. In 1982, Leslie bought Victoria's Secret for $1 million and completely transformed it. He revamped the catalog with elegant, aspirational models. He reimagined the stores as bright, modern spaces that women actually wanted to shop in, while still allowing men to enjoy the catalogs, because of course, male gaze, they have to do it. They have to look out for one another. But it was the perfect balance because the stores ended up doing really well and attracting more customers, and the business just succeeded. By 1995, Victoria's Secret was worth a whopping $1.9 billion. And this was back in 1995. So just imagine how much that would be in today's economy. And they had 670 stores nationwide. It was literally everywhere. And that was the same year where we had the first Victoria's Secret fashion show. And if you fast forward to today, Victoria's Secret is a global powerhouse. And Leslie himself, he is worth $7 billion. This just demonstrates that identifying the right idea and knowing how to scale it can transform a simple concept into an empire. And that's what Leslie did. But we also have to keep in mind that Leslie already had money before he bought Victoria's Secret. So, you know what they say, the rich get richer? Yeah. After selling Victoria's Secret to Leslie, Roy opened up a new store. It was supposed to be a children's retail store, but unfortunately it failed and it went bankrupt in 1986. Around the same time too, his marriage ended up in divorce. Then in 1993, Roy tragically took his own life by jumping off San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge. He was only 46 years old. We can't know precisely what led him to that moment, but it's probably regrets about Victoria's Secret and also his personal life. Love, ambition, and financial pressures can really take a toll on someone. At the end of the day, money doesn't guarantee happiness, but giving up and feeling like you've missed your shot can be deadly. Sometimes the hardest lesson is learning how to accept setbacks and move forward, even when it can be very painful. But while Roy's story ended in tragedy, Leslie's journey with Victoria's Secret was only the beginning. By 1995, as I said before, the first Victoria's Secret fashion show was officially launched. And the decision to launch this fashion show made lingerie mainstream. It was unlike anything the fashion world had seen before. Created by Leslie and Ed Razak, who was the then chief marketing officer of L Brands, the show blurred the lines between fashion, fantasy, and entertainment. Although in the beginning it wasn't easy. The brand actually struggled to find models who wanted to walk in lingerie. At the time, lingerie modeling still carried a stigma. It was considered risque and taboo, but that perception did not last for long. And it's just so crazy because in 2025, that is the complete opposite. If you want to see some booty cheeks, you could go on Instagram and see some booty cheeks. So it's just interesting how it was considered risque back in the day, but now you can see people post themselves in their lingerie, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever you want to call it. So it's just interesting to see how times have evolved. And around this time, we had the Big Five, who were 5 supermodels who were extremely popular during the 90s. And I talked about them a bit in my previous video about booty, so make sure you check that out. But these ladies were very much popular. They're pretty much celebrities. The shows that they walked in were just very different from Victoria's Secret. They were walking in high class, bougie, it was just a different vibe. Don't get it twisted though, a few of them did walk in Victoria's Secret. During the 90s, like before Victoria's Secret really popped off, they were doing just like the bougie shows. In fact, Claudia Schiffer, who is part of the Big Five, she was the first model ever to wear the fantasy bra. It was a bra worth $1 million because it was encrusted in Swarovski crystals. Hopefully I said that right, because I know the brand. Y'all know the brand Swarovski, like that. Yes, you do. It never made the runway, but honestly, it didn't have to. The image alone said everything. In fact, to even get the shot of Claudia in the bra, they had to escort her in an armored car and they had 2 guards with her, just so no one tried to snatch her or steal the bra because, as I said, it was worth $1 million. And just like that, the fantasy bra became the pinnacle of Victoria's Secret's opulence. First introduced in 1996, each year's design was custom made by world-renowned jewelers, dripping in diamonds and rare gemstones worth millions. It wasn't just underwear though, it was literally art. A spectacle meant to dazzle and also to remind the world that Victoria's Secret didn't just sell lingerie, it sold a fantasy and it set the beauty standards for the early 2000s for millions of women out there, including myself. For over 2 decades, the fantasy bra reigned as the crown jewel of Victoria's Secret fashion show until its final glittering appearance in 2018 where it was worn by Elsa Hosk and it cost $1 million. And I won't lie, quite a few of these fantasy bras just look like the costume you wear to mass. In Caribbean culture, mass is short for masquerade, but it's more than just going to carnival and dressing up and dancing around. It's a full-blown celebration of culture, rhythm, and freedom. And during carnival, people dress up in vibrant themed costumes and dance through the streets. So the ones who are wearing these costumes are called masqueraders, and they usually join a band. So if you're looking at the screen right now, you can see that the costumes that they wear for mass look similar to the fantasy bras in my opinion. And I know for a fact the costumes do not cost $1 million. I know it because I literally played. I played mass last year. My outfit was expensive, but I think it was like $300, $400. Yeah, it was expensive, but it wasn't $1 million. But I understand why it's $1 million because it's real diamonds, I guess. But I don't know, they look the exact same, so what's the point? But if you want you a fantasy bra, just go play mass 1 year and then you get to keep the bra. Okay. But let's talk about the wings. Let's talk about the angels of Victoria's Secret because they are arguably one of the most important, iconic parts of the brand. So the angels did not start until 1977, 2 years after the first fashion show. A year later, Tyra Banks became the first model ever to wear wings on the runway, which was a defining moment that transformed the show into something iconic. From that point on, the wings weren't just accessories. They were symbols. Becoming an angel meant that you had reached supermodel status. By 1999, Victoria's Secret was already thinking ahead of its time. That year's fashion show was live streamed through a partnership with broadcast.com and IBM, 2 years before it would ever hit national television. Of course, by today's standards, it wasn't exactly HD, but still it marked the beginning of the show's evolution from a simple runway event into a global pop culture spectacle. And then by the early 2000s, Victoria's Secret was pretty much much untouchable. The brand literally had turned lingerie into a full-blown luxury fantasy, and nothing embodied this more than the 15 million. I'm gonna say it again for those in the back. $15 million. So they created a $15 million fantasy bra. Actually, it was the bra and the panties, and it was worn by Gisele Bündchen in 2000. Then in 2001, the show took place in Cannes Film Festival, merging fashion with Hollywood-level glamour before returning to New York City in the same year for its first ever television broadcast. The show originally aired on ABC, but that partnership did not last long. By 2002, CBS had taken over, and that was the same year that Victoria's Secret launched its youth-focused line, Pink. And I loved pink when I was younger. I really wanted to get pink PJs, pink outfits, just anything pink because I was such a girly girl when I was younger. I just really wanted it, but it was too expensive, so my parents never got it for me. But from this point on, the televised shows transformed Victoria's Secret from a brand to a cultural moment. Names like Adriana Lima, Tyra Banks, Heidi Klum, and Gisele Bündchen, and Candice Swanepoel weren't just models. They were household names at this point. These women defined beauty for an entire generation. Some even dominated Forbes' highest paid model list. In 2003, Gisele Bündchen made $12.8 million just by working with Victoria's Secret. So they were paid these models good. But then in 2004, the show suddenly went dark because something major happened. It was February 1st, 2004, and Janet Jackson was performing at the Super Bowl. While she was on stage with Justin Timberlake, she suffered a wardrobe malfunction which exposed her boob area. I don't know which boob it was, but it was one of them. And once that happened, all hell broke loose. The industry low-key, high-key blackballed her. They dragged her. It was a mess. It was a lot. And Victoria's Secret was scared because they did not want to be caught in the backlash. I mean, if you think about it, their shows are lingerie. It's very sexual, it's very seductive. So they just wanted to pull back in 2004 just because of the Super Bowl incident. So instead of a runway show, the brand launched Angels Across America. So this was a glamorous road trip from New York to Miami and Las Vegas, where top models like Gisele, Tyra, Heidi, and Adriana met fans face to face. It was part PR move, part charm offensive, and it reminded the world that Victoria's Secret wasn't just selling lingerie. It was selling a fantasy, one smile and one push-up bra at a time. And it worked because it was received well. They got no backlash. But a decade later, in 2014, Victoria's Secret was still going on strong. By this time, it had mastered the art of spectacle, and they decided to take their show overseas. They touched down in London, and the performer lineup was stacked. They had Ed Sheeran, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, and Hozier, and it was just a full-blown concert. This show also gave the internet one of its favorite memes, where Elsa Hosk, I believe that's how you say her name, she had her wings on and she was walking down the runway, and there's a funny picture where it looked like the wing hit Ariana Grande when she was performing. Elsa has confirmed that the wing did not hit Ariana, but the photo was still funny. So by this time, Victoria's Secret was still going strong, still slaying, but the cracks were starting to show. With the rise of social media came a new generation of models. We had Gigi Hadid and Kendall Jenner in 2015. They made their runway debut. Then in 2016, Bella Hadid made hers, officially ushering in a younger digital era generation of angels. And fans were obsessed, but not with the show itself, but with the angels. We wanted to know their diet routine, their skincare routine, how they stayed in shape, how they looked fabulous. And it basically turned the whole thing into a lifestyle spectacle. We wanted to know the models beyond the runway. We wanted to know them. But while the brand's image stayed shiny online, the numbers told a different story. TV viewership was slipping fast. What once drew 10.3 million viewers in 2011 had dwindled down to 3.2 million by 2018. Then the following year, the show was canceled, marking the end of an era that had defined mainstream ideas of beauty, sex appeal, and femininity for over 2 decades. But what exactly happened? Part 2, the downfall. Let's start this section with the question I asked on Instagram. And also, since you've made it this far in the video, you might as well subscribe. Go ahead, like the video, subscribe, comment, period, even hype the video. I appreciate the hypes. Thank y'all. Okay, let me get to the question. What made you stop caring about Victoria's Secret? 22% said too expensive. That says a lot because Victoria's Secret wasn't just selling lingerie, they were selling status. And I know firsthand the prices were not that cute, even though as a kid or kid/teen, I wanted it, but I just thought it was too expensive. So that's why I personally never bought anything up until like 2 years ago. Then 10% said the same body type over and over. That's some tea because it's not just about what they excluded, it's what Victoria's Secret taught us to idolize. And it probably did not do the best on some of our mental health. I know I definitely wanted to be an angel, but at the time when I was watching it, I definitely did not fit that angel aesthetic. Then 11% said better options came out. And this is a competitive shift. We've seen a lot of brands come out, like Savage X Fenty, Skims, Parade. They all made sexy feel human, while Victoria's Secret for the longest time made sexy feel unattainable. And you were sexy only if you looked a specific way. 57% of you, which was the majority, said that y'all never cared. Y'all are the strong ones because as I said before, when I was younger, I really adored Victoria's Secret. I also adored pink. I just wanted to have the clothes. The girls in my school, they had the pink. We are too young to be rocking Victoria's Secret stuff, but they definitely wore the pink outfits and I just wanted to be part of that. I loved it. But anyways, thank you so much for participating in these polls. It's always interesting to get y'all's opinions on these topics. So make sure you follow me on Instagram. It's NK's World with 2 D's, because where else would you want to be? You know what I'm saying? Okay, let's keep going with this video. Yeah, Victoria's Secret shows were very different from other fashion shows. I was used to seeing fashion shows where the models looked very serious, they were just like, they did not smile. The energy was not as hyped and happy. It was just very like, you know, do the walk in, like that was it. And that's the type of fashion shows I was used to seeing when I was growing up. And then Victoria's Secret popped up into all of our screens and it was just a different vibe. The models would smile, be happy, the energy was giving, their hair was blowing. We had our favorite artists on stage dancing and talking to the models and just like, you know, it was just fun, it was just cute, and the energy was overall a vibe. But by the mid-2010s, nearly 2 decades after it first started, Victoria's Secret was still selling a fantasy. Unfortunately though, the culture had moved on. What used to feel glamorous and untouchable started to feel dated, even a little bit tone deaf. In 2017, the show's ratings nearly dropped by 30% among their target audience, 18 to 49-year-olds. Fashion and pop culture writer Emily Kirkpatrick said it perfectly. The show felt divorced from the times. While women were finally having open conversations about mental health, body image struggles, and the beauty ideals that shaped them, Victoria's Secret was still selling the same fantasy and still promoting highly unrealistic and unattainable ideas of beauty. It felt like the brand was stuck in a loop and stuck in the early 2000s, pretending that the conversation was not changing. The early 2000s body standards were vastly different from now, and especially they were different during the mid-2010s. And if you're not keeping up with the times, you're gonna fall behind, and that's exactly what was happening to Victoria's Secret around this time. In the 2000s, sure, your movies, your shows, your music videos, they could feature small, white, petite, blonde women and get away with it, but when it started reaching 2015, 2016 and up, the audience demanded more. We wanted representation. We did not want to see the same thing over and over again. No matter how glamorous or how big the wings you gave these angels, we wanted to see more. The representation was kept to a minimum on Victoria's Secret, and we were forced to accept that until we didn't have to. Most notably, we had Rihanna's Savage X Fenty fashion shows. I don't think she's still doing the fashion shows now, but she is still releasing products under her Fenty line. She does have a lot of businesses, so I honestly cannot keep up with them. The only one that I shop from is Fenty Beauty, like the actual makeup, because her bronzer is good, her lip gloss is good, those like. And when Rihanna launched her business empire, she chose a smart team because they saw the gaps in the beauty and the fashion industry and they addressed it head on. And that's why her brands have been so well received. And once Rihanna's businesses became highly successful, other companies realized how lucrative it was to appeal to people of color, gender non-conforming people, and people who are just not size zeros. And then other brands started to become more diverse. Funny how that works. But let's go back back to Victoria's Secret for a second. 2015 was low-key the start of the end of Victoria's Secret fashion shows, or at least the fantasy they had built. That same year, Karlie Kloss announced that she was leaving the brand, saying that it no longer aligned with her values. And that was a big statement, especially coming from someone who had been one of their most recognizable angels. Her contract officially ended in 2019, but the writing was already on the wall. It was even more of a big deal too, because Karlie was quite popular in 2015. During that time, Taylor Swift released her studio album called 1989, and she was friends with so many other popular female entertainers at that time, and they were just known as like a girl squad. I don't even know what to call it. Like, I think who was in it? Like Selena Gomez and Zendaya, like a lot of models. Like, they were just all friends, and they were also in her Bad Blood music video. They just kind of formed a posse, and Karlie Kloss was seen with Taylor Swift a lot, so that skyrocketed her fame. And also being an angel as well skyrocketed her fame. So it was a pretty big deal when Karlie left, because people are like, damn, girl, what's going on? The thing about Victoria's Secret is that behind the scenes, the models were told to keep things light and just be relentlessly optimistic. Basically always happy, smiling like, yay, life is amazing. That type of vibe. And we definitely saw that vibe on the runway as well. And sure, at the time that did work, but as the years went on, we started having important conversations about mental health, body image issues, body positivity, body neutrality, and the audience was demanding authenticity. They did not want to see these models be happy 24/7. We wanted to see the real stuff, because no one's happy 24/7. But nothing could have affected Victoria's Secret more than the 2018 interview with Vogue. In November 2018, Ed Razak, the brand's longtime executive, did an interview with Vogue and made what would become the worst statements in Victoria's Secret history ever. When asked about inclusivity, he said that the brand would never hire trans models or plus size models because they did not fit into the fantasy that they were trying to sell. Let me just show you these two men who were running the Victoria's Secret fashion shows. I mean, if you've been watching, you have already seen them, but we have Leslie on the screen, we have Ed on the screen. That just tells you everything you need to know about why this company took so long to adjust and to adapt to being more inclusive. If you're listening on Spotify, I'll just explain it. They are two old white men. So that gives you everything you need to know. But once Ed said that he would not hire transgender models or plus size models, the backlash was swift. Even Karlie Kloss and Lily Alridge, both former models, spoke out publicly, posting on their Instagram stories saying trans and gender non-conforming people are not a debate. It was one of those moments where you could literally feel the cultural tide shifting, and Victoria's Secret was standing on the wrong side of it. And after that, the downfall was not just cultural, it was financial. And you know how these businessmen are about their money. When the money starts not looking cute, that's when action has to be taken. Between 2017 and 2018, their stock plummeted 35% and sales were falling month after month. But part of it was the timing though, as malls were dying out and more people wanted to shop online. Shopping online is pretty convenient, I won't lie, so I understand that 100%. And also the brand stopped selling swimwear too around this time, and swimwear was making them a lot of money. So I'm not sure why they decided to stop selling swimwear, but it definitely affected their sales. But the bigger issue was that people simply just had moved on. We had better options and other brands that made us feel beautiful and sexy without pushing an unrealistic image. Aerie's a great brand, and they had this, I'm literally blanking on her name right now, but she was how I found out about Aerie. She was, I'm trying to remember. Oh, I actually hate that I forget her name right now. But she was a former model, but then she ended up becoming sort of like a advocate for plus size models and everything. I really hate that I'm forgetting her name, but she was like an ambassador for Aerie, and I followed her because at that time I was in, I think, high school, and I was tired of Instagram because this was when the baddie aesthetic was rampant, you know, the BBL bodies, the fakeness, all that. I was so tired of it, so I took a year break off of Instagram, and then when I came back, I unfollowed everyone who was pushing this narrow beauty ideal and just toxic beauty ideal. It was just affecting me and I didn't want it to get too far. So I deleted Instagram for a year, and when I came back, I remember I followed her specifically because I was following a bunch of people who just seemed real, not fake, and she was one of them. She was great. Love her content. That's how I found Aerie. Then I really enjoyed Aerie because they were promoting more inclusivity vibes, and their loungewear is very comfortable. So personally, I really do like Aerie. And if you thought that it couldn't get worse, it does get worse. So during the 2018 fashion show, Ed Razak reportedly touched models inappropriately, and it did not seem like an isolated incident at all. Reports, which I'll get to later, they reported that he had been behaving like that for years, groping, making lewd comments, asking models to sit on his lap and try to kiss them. And then when the news broke out about his connections to Jeffrey Epstein in 2019, that was it. The brand's shiny image was shattered and Ed resigned not long after. But it wasn't over. About a year later, another bombshell dropped. In 2020, the New York Times dropped an investigation that basically confirmed what everyone had been whispering about. That behind all the glitter and angel rings, Victoria's Secret had a dark, toxic culture that had been festering for years. And at the center of it were the two men, Leslie and Ed. According to the reports, Ed had been accused of sexual harassment and inappropriate behavior towards the models for years, and nothing was done about it. He was even accused of blacklisting models who rejected him. That's crazy. That's why I'm like, some of y'all do not deserve to have so much power. And low-key, a lot of people should not have so much power. Like y'all, when y'all get power, y'all are evil. And according to the New York Times investigation, Leslie did not seem innocent either in all of this. The investigation also revealed his disturbing ties to Jeffrey Epstein, who had posed as a Victoria's Secret recruiter to lure young women. Allegedly, Leslie was aware of this, but nothing happened. But of course, I just gotta say allegedly just to protect myself. But by then, the brand was collapsing under the weight of its own image. The outdated fantasy, the PR disasters, and now the abuse allegations. Sales were tanking and the show was canceled for the first time in 20 years. And the brand that once defined American sexy was now a cautionary tale. By 2020, Leslie officially stepped down from L Brands, and L Brands is the parent company of Victoria's Secret. Well, was. And this marked the end of an era. And honestly, it was the end of an illusion that Victoria's Secret was ever as glamorous as it looked on stage. Part 3, the rebrand. Let's start this section with the question that I asked on Instagram. So I asked, do you think brands today are genuinely more inclusive or just pretending to be? So 3% said that they are genuinely trying. Then 57%, the majority, said somewhat but still performative. And I get that because we're in this weird middle ground where brands know what inclusivity is supposed to look like, but not what it's supposed to feel like. And I feel like that's where a lot of brands struggle because they're trying to be inclusive to make money, you know, that's what's trending now, to be inclusive. But I just feel like they lack how they're supposed to actually make us feel. And I even had my friend swipe up, I'm not gonna say her name though because she's in the industry, but she said diversity pick is definitely a thing, and a lot of brands do it just to save face and show that they're inclusive, in my opinion. And she's in the industry, y'all, she would know. And I was like, oh girl, that's tea, but let me not say her name, but I mean, look at the material. Then 23% said mostly pretending. I can appreciate when brands try to do better and to be more diverse, just basically cater to a variety of different people. I can appreciate that. But sure, in the back of my head, I may or may not think that, hey, I don't know how genuine this is, but I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. 16% said they're changing for the money, which might just be the honest take. So hey, I don't blame y'all if you chose this answer. But anyways, thank you so much for participating in these polls. As always, it makes the videos interesting. So make sure you follow me on Instagram so you don't miss a future poll. Do it. But anyways, back to Victoria's Secret. So I don't think I said this, but Victoria's Secret fashion show, it was canceled in November 2019. So in 2019, Victoria's Secret made a move that felt like progress on the surface. So they hired their first transgender model, Valentina Sampaio. Valentina is a Brazilian model and actress, and she announced her new campaign with a simple post on Instagram. It was a behind-the-scenes photo shoot for her Victoria's Secret pink line, but the timing just wasn't good because literally a year prior, Ed Razak was talking about how he would never hire a trans model. And then a year later, they hired a trans model, but only because the backlash was swift. So it didn't feel like this milestone came from a place of genuine evolution. It came right after one of the brand's biggest public backlashes. So it felt entirely purely like a PR move. Okay, but let's fast forward to 2021. Victoria's Secret made a huge announcement. They said no more angels, no more wings, which was crazy because, as I said before, as I tried to stress the importance of it, the wings, the angels, they were a very iconic part of Victoria's Secret. So instead, they induced something entirely new. It was called the Victoria's Secret Collective. So this idea was meant to replace the fantasy with authenticity. They had Megan Rapinoe, Priyanka Chopra, Paloma Alcacer, and Eileen Gu. On top of this, in 2021, Victoria's Secret broke away from its parent company, L Brands, and went public, calling for a new chapter for the brand. And after 5 years of silence, Victoria's Secret decided to make its comeback with the 2023 Victoria's Secret tour. So it was a mix between fashion show and a documentary, and it was released exclusively on Amazon Prime. So this wasn't the old catwalk filled with wings and glitter. It was supposed to be global, inclusive, and artistic, taking audiences to Lagos, London, Tokyo, and Bogota. So on paper, it sounded like progress, but the execution just fell flat. I watched it. I did not watch all of it because I was confused and also bored. It just didn't make sense, and it felt like a totally new rebrand. And I'm like, is this supposed to be a documentary? And they also try to make it funny, and it wasn't funny at all. I see the vision, but it just did not hit the way it was supposed to hit. And I mean, I wasn't the only one. Other people did not seem to like this docu-series or documentary. Honestly, I don't even know what to call it. So one fashion critic said, it just didn't read the room. And another one said, it felt like the brand was trying to be politically correct, not genuine. They were giving us high fashion looks, but Victoria's Secret was never known for its high fashion looks. It was known for its wings and lingerie. Then on top of that, it just felt like it had no brand identity. And I'm not saying for them to bring out all the thin, small, petite ladies to make it what it was before, but there's a way to evolve without changing the whole identity. It was just very confusing. So after their 2023 docu-series was poorly received, they went back to the drawing board. Then the following year in 2024, they announced that they would have their first Victoria's Secret fashion show in 6 years. So after 6 long years, the Victoria's Secret fashion show finally made its return, this time hosted right at their flagship store in New York City on October 15th. And of course, people tuned in, including myself. We hadn't seen Victoria's Secret on our screen in a long time, so we were interested to see what they would bring to the table this time. The hype alone helped to pull in major numbers, making it one of the most watched live stream events that year. And probably the biggest moment of the night was Tyra Banks walking the runway, because I believe she hadn't walked with Victoria's Secret in like 20 years, 10 years. It's been a long time since she last walked with them, so it was very nostalgic for people to see. But I won't lie, people did have negative things to say about Tyra walking, basically because when she was the host on America's Next Top Model, she was not nice to the models, so that's why people were being rude to her, but that's besides the point. The live stream itself pulled around 2.6 million peak viewers, with over 2 million coming just from YouTube. It ranked alongside the Eurovision finals and even topped major streaming events and international pageants, which is surprising, but I mean, they do say that absence makes the heart grow fonder. And I guess we were all missing the runway of Victoria's Secret. I remember watching the show with my sister and her friend, and it was a good show. I liked it. It wasn't necessarily anything jaw-dropping or revolutionary. They basically kept the same format of their older shows, but this time they had plus-size people. It was more diverse, and on top of that, they had trans people. I believe they had at least one trans model on the runway. And the next show in 2025, this year, will be on October 15th, and I'm filming this video October 10th. And even though the 2024 show was one of the most viewed live streams of the year, viewership doesn't necessarily mean victory. Sales have dropped 7.8 billion in 2016 to 6.2 billion last year. And when you think about it, it doesn't sound too bad because, I mean, I ain't no business major, but a company worth $6 billion should be doing just fine. And I feel like the irony of it all is that people have criticized Victoria's Secret, yet it still does remain as one of the top lingerie retailers out there. It's been around for a really, really long time and has just built a reputation for itself. We can criticize it, and we should be allowed to criticize it when it needs to be criticized. It's just interesting because people will come online and criticize it, but still buy from the company. And actually, I won't say criticize, I'll say bash. I feel like like criticize and bash are two different things. There's nothing wrong with being a critic because you just want to demand better. But bashing, people will just straight out bash and be like, this is bad, that's bad, you guys suck, and then still secretly buy it. Fashion journalist Lauren Sherman actually said something interesting about this. She basically argued that we might be giving too much moral credit to the consumers. Because let's be real, people, they love to bash certain brands, but behind the scenes, they go and buy it. Like, girl, I've seen many people bash Shein online, yet Shein sales have still been on top. And I'm not gonna say that the people who are bashing it are the ones buying it, because I've seen comments where people are under a post of someone bashing Shein. They're like, girl, I don't care, it's cheap, I can't afford expensive stuff, so I'm gonna do it. But overall, that is the story of how Victoria's Secret became one of the world's largest lingerie companies out there, and then low-key fell from grace and now is trying to make a comeback. But hopefully after watching this video, you have been able to answer this question. When a company only embraces diversity after being called out for rejecting it, can that ever feel authentic? Let me know in the comments down below. And thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate you. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, and I will see y'all very, very soon. So bye!